7 secrets from a craft fair host.
If you're trying to make your way to your first 10K, hopefully this video gets you there faster. We have an amazing person on the show for you today. This girl runs her own craft show. She's been doing shows since she was 16 years old. She's got an incredible story to tell. I don't want to spoil it, but you guys are about to learn so much.
This girl slays. She makes a ton of money doing this part-time. Yeah, that's right. She does this part-time because she's got a full-time job.
She's been helping people grow their business in the stud stack, but today she's sharing everything for you guys so you can make more money at your next craft fair.
So let's get to it. 7 secrets about craft shows, craft fairs, flea markets, whatever you want to call them, from a craft show organizer herself.
No sponsor today. Our only ask is that if you enjoyed the video, send it to somebody you know who does craft shows. It'll really help them out. And we're gonna start with her story about how she started to make and sell things. So start us off, how did you get into making stuff?
So when I was little, my mom did a lot of sewing and like needlepoint and cross stitch and all that. And so I do like the little kid versions of like cross stitch patterns and all. And I liked making things, right? Like stuff that I could keep later that I did by myself. And so as I got older, I started getting into like scrapbooking, and I've made a couple like really, I think, fancy, even though they don't look great, scrapbooks. And I found out, like I had heard about a Cricut. I was like, oh man, that's going to take me to another level, right? Because I can cut things out that aren't just squares or rectangles anymore. So I bought a Cricut, and I was like, man, I can make some really cool stuff with like, or for scrapbooking things. I can cut cool shapes and whatever. And so I got it, never used it for a scrapbook. I ended up buying a bunch of vinyl, and I was like, I can stick this on everything, right? So I started just cutting out random shapes and words and putting them on things. And I found some Facebook groups for it, and those people were then putting them on cups. And so I found like those glitter tumblers with the epoxy on them. Did them for a couple years. And because of those groups, I started hearing people talk about like the Glowforge. I was like, there is no way I'm ever going to afford that, but it's cool looking. And so like, 2 years or so after I'd first heard about a Glowforge, I ended up buying my machine off of Amazon. And it's much bigger and better than a Glowforge. Not the best, but I'll take what I can get. And it has been a workhorse for the last like 4 years. So it's just kind of been like a progression of like one thing to the next. And then I started doing the woodworking because I needed to cut wood up to make things for the laser, like, you know, to cut pieces of plywood down to size and all that kind of stuff. And now I've taken over a 2-car garage.
Isn't it crazy how fast that happens? You're like, I have this little hobby, and now it's a 2-car garage, and I can't possibly still fit all my stuff in there. It grows so fast.
I love hearing everybody's story of like how they got into making, because it never starts with like the big hobby.
Yes.
It never starts with like, oh, I wanted to be a woodworker, or I wanted to like weld metal together. It's like, oh, I used to take apart the remote control, and like, oh, I used to like scrapbook, or like I used to build sandcat. Like it's always something small that then just gets reinforced as we grow up, whether through good parenting or just our environment. I think the school system is starting to like celebrate creativity now more too. So it's really cool to see a whole generation of people that have been encouraged to make stuff with their hands. So I wanted to start with that. Let's dive into the deeper topic. How then did you decide like, what I make other people want to buy? How did you start selling what it is that you were making?
I forced my mom to go to a craft show, like at the county fairgrounds. It was very small. I think I made like $100, but the booth was only like 30. So I was super excited. Big win for me.
Yeah.
My mom was not thrilled. She was cold. It was kind of drizzly for half the day. Like she was like, oh, this is why I don't sell my stuff. I was like, we can just try again. It'll get better. It's got to be better, right? So I usually make her come with me to like all of my shows now when she can. And she hates it every time. She pushes through.
And how old were you when you did your first show?
16 or 17.
Oh, wow.
It was right around like high school. Yeah.
Nice.
That was with like cards and things like that. It was not anything that I ever would make now.
Yeah.
But which is probably why I made like $100, because who spends that much money on like thank you cards? But they were cute. They just, you know, I couldn't sell them for more than like $1 or $2.
Yeah.
Going through all those things, I realized what I didn't like making and what I don't like doing, and I hate painting things. So I know for a fact I will never do anything if it can't be spray painted a solid color. It's not going to happen. And so when I started doing like the laser stuff, and I got more into like selling things and doing craft shows like constantly for a couple of years with it, I like doing tumblers. I think they're cool, and they were really a hot seller for a while for me. The coasters that I do now, That's like my biggest seller because they're quick and they're cheap. I sell them for like $10 for a set of 4 of them, and people can pick whichever ones they want. So over the years, I've figured out kind of what shape and what material and stuff people prefer over the others, which is nice. Cutting boards, I'm still working on getting into. Like I do those recipe cutting boards where people will give me like their family recipe and I put that on there. But I use pre-made boards for those just so I can knock them out.
Yeah.
But those are like the main things. And then Christmas ornaments during like the fall and Christmas time, which those are my favorite. But the cutting boards and the tumblers, that's where I make my money. So.
Okay.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Alex, one of the things I love about you most is you're able to so quickly bounce back and forth between what you like making and knowing what the customers will and won't buy. That's something that Jenny and I have really struggled with. At least I've struggled with it. I don't know if you have.
Neither of us are like experts at it by any means.
So how do you, Alex, then how do you gauge the balance between like, I don't like making this, but it makes a lot of money? Like where do you draw the line for that?
Yeah, especially at the craft fairs, because I feel like a lot of your expertise is very like craft fair oriented.
Yeah, when you do a lot of shows, there's a very balance between knowing what people want and not doing things that you hate doing. Like the glitter tumblers, for a while, I really loved doing them. And then I decided, like, I can't do this anymore. They take way too long to make one. And I hate hearing all the people tell me this is too expensive. Will you take half the price for it? Like, one of the things is, like, when I get feedback like that from people and they're not willing to pay for my time that it takes to put, one of these things together, I'm done with it. Like, I'll find something else to replace it that I like doing just as much that will also make me money. The more shows you do, the more you pick up on those like little comments that you hear from people. Like sometimes somebody will say something, you're like, oh, okay, that was one person. But over the course of like 10 shows in a year, if you hear the same thing, it either gets so discouraging that you're just like, I'm done with this, I'll find something else. Or, you hear great things. You're like, great, I'm going to keep going, but I got to find a way to make it better so I can get more money out of it, that perceived value.
Yeah, it sounds like the answer is just to talk to more people, right?
Yeah.
You got to know what the people want and what they're saying, because like you said at the beginning, people were happy to pay for the glitter tumblers, and then towards the end when the market got so saturated, everybody's expectations got higher and the prices got lower, and you weren't able to find any sort of profit in between, right?
And I would assume too that you find success in being able to like switch between different products because you've been able to wait it out. Like, has the whole process of learning what works taken like a little bit longer than you thought it might? Because like everything I'm hearing you say is you're really good about making changes and then waiting and making changes and waiting.
When I don't do this full time, so it's not as big of a deal if I have to wait around a little bit. Like, this is not my moneymaker. I still go to my normal like 40-hour work a week job. This pays for the fun things that I want to buy, like new tools and stuff like that. So if I'm not constantly making things, it's not like I have to keep selling stuff over and over again to keep up with like my lifestyle, I guess. So it makes it a lot easier to just wait it out. A week goes by a lot quicker, when I can take a break and not have to think about it. And then all of a sudden I've got another show and I get the same or different feedback, and then I can kind of like gauge things from there.
You guys are in for a treat because you're listening to Alex talk about her business and everything in hindsight. She's also being super humble because that's just the kind of person she is. Make no mistake, this girl hustles.
Yes.
She works super, super hard, does shows year round. She's always working on something. I know she's saying, oh, I take breaks and I take it slow, but she is like pushing really hard all the time and loving every second of it. And I think that's super important. Alex also runs her own show. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, about what it's like on the other side of like organizing one of these shows?
So one of the things that made me decide like exactly what I wanted to sell and like really narrow it down was in 2021, I did my first show. So I do it over at the fairgrounds that are like 10 minutes up the street from my house, which is awesome. And when I started getting applications for that, I realized just how irritating it is as like a show host when somebody says, oh, I really want to be in your show. Where's the application? You're like, oh, I love this person. Their energy is great. You give them the application. And when you get it back, all of a sudden you see this list of like 1,000 things because they make keychains, they do epoxy things, they do, wood stuff, they make signs, and they glitter shoes, and like also jewelry. Everyone does jewelry. And I'm not knocking any of those things because all of them are great, but it's just very hard to place you in a show when you do a little bit of everything next to somebody who doesn't do what you do. And one of my biggest goal with my show is that I want it to fix all of the problems that I've had at other shows. I don't want it to be like all the other ones where everybody leaves saying, the spaces were actually 9 by 9 instead of 10 by 10, or they didn't advertise at all and nobody showed up or whatever, or I was put next to somebody that does the exact same thing as me. And so I spend hours doing my floor plan to make sure that it's color coded and all kinds of crazy stuff to make sure that people are so far away from anyone that does anything even similar to them. So by doing that, I realized I don't want to be that person that causes the problem for somebody else. So if you're on the fence about doing something, try and just narrow your stuff down instead of doing more things, because it's going to end up getting you into more shows and getting a better spot if you don't do a little bit of everything. But anyway, so I do my show. It's the first weekend of December at the fairgrounds here, and I think I'm up to 54 vendors now.
Wow.
2 of them are not handmade. Everything else is. Those 2, when they finally decide to leave, I will not have direct salespeople come back, but both of them have been there since the very beginning, and they've never missed one of my shows. And they've also been huge helps in finding people and stuff for me at that first show. So it's you all can stick around. It's fine. But I have pictures with Santa this year. Ooh. Where one of my vendors is a nonprofit for Alaskan Malamutes, the dog. It looks kind of like a husky-ish fluffy thing. Yeah. They're adorable. The lady that's in charge of it is going to have one of her friends that does pictures with Santa every year. She's going to come set up so I don't have to use my not so great looking backdrop. She has a nice one. And they're going to bring a couple of the dogs so that way people can take pictures with them for a few hours in the middle of Saturday and Sunday. This year it will be 2 days too, which I'm excited and terrified about because normally it's just one day, and that one's gone well, but I don't know. I feel 2 days is a lot, so we will see.
That's a big show.
Yeah.
50, you said 53 vendors?
54.
54.
I think it's 54.
Jeez.
Plus I've got 3 food trucks.
Oh my
nice.
Gosh. Yeah, so just a little craft fair, not a big deal or anything. That's awesome. And how many years have you done it?
So this is the 3rd year. So I did it 21 and 22, plus I did a spring show in 22. So this is my 4th show, but the 3rd winter one.
So you started a show in 2021, and it's just grown all the way through while everybody else is closing down shows. And man, that's incredible, Alex. That's really cool.
And my return vendor rate is 86%.
Wow.
That's
from last
awesome.
year.
So they're making money.
I think I got from other people. I've even got people that are going to set up outside just so they can be there. I was like,
wow.
I mean, that's fine. I'll give you a discounted price because it's going to be cold, but
wow.
Sure.
That sounds like you run a really great show.
Yeah.
I would love to come someday. That would be so much fun.
I know. That would be so great.
You can stay with us. I just built a guest bed.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. I love having makers as friends.
Oh my gosh. So quick background on how we know Alex. We met her we met her in the morning show back when we used to do the morning show, but she quickly signed up for the Stud Stack and we just became, instant friends. We get along really well. We see things relatively the same way, and we both have an enormous amount of respect for other makers who make and sell things. It was very apparent when Alex got in the group that she was there to help people as well as grow her own business, and that's exactly who we enjoy making friends with. And so this is not a Stud Stack plug. I just wanted everybody to know where we met each other from. And on that note, we've been teasing some new content for the members of the Stud Stack. We've been trying it out before we release it to YouTube, so it's as good as it can be. And we cover 4 different areas now. So we've decided that there's 4 different areas of a business. And if any one of them isn't working, your whole business is going to come to a halt.
And the only hard part is you may not know which part is struggling at the moment.
So the first one is what product you have. The second one is promoting your product for sale. The third one is finding an efficient way to create your product and give it to the customer. And then the fourth one is taking care of the people in your business. Usually that's us as the makers, but if you have employees, those count too. So those are the 4 areas.
Which one do you think you're best at?
I am best at taking naps when I need a nap. Good at just like not working when it's time to not work, when I feel like I'm getting overwhelmed with life in general, not just like laser work, but any kind of anything.
Got it. So you're really good at the like taking care of people parts. You've kind of mastered like taking care of yourself so you don't get burnt out, which is really cool because that's one we struggle with. So like, oh my gosh, we have so much to learn from you and we envy you because that's the one that's like the most difficult for us. Which one would you say you're like always working toward improving?
The promoting one. I'm really good when I talk to people and they ask me like, oh, how's your business going? Or how's Hella Yellow or whatever. I'm just like, oh, it's great. Let me tell you about all these things, right? But making that conversation happen, like I remember in some video you guys did forever ago, you were like, whenever you get the chance to say hi to somebody, tell them, oh, I started a business. Let me tell you all about it, you know? And I've tried that a few times and it makes me feel so weird. Even though I'm not like telling them you need to buy my product, but there's just something about like talking about myself in that capacity where I just feel really like just strange. So I'm still working on it, but it's gotten better.
Yeah, I mean, clearly you're building a craft show that tons of people are clawing over each other to sign up for again. So clearly they're making money. How do you promote that show?
Ooh, good question.
As much as people hate say like the answer of, oh, I promote it on social media, that's like the majority of what I do because it reaches so many people so fast and for so little money. Like I definitely spend money on paid ads to make sure that it gets out there to people that are not directly related to like my page. But it's people get really irritated about it, but it's like the best way to do things. I do take flyers to all the other shows I do in the fall leading up to it. And I send out a ton of like marketing materials and stuff that all of my vendors can use. So everything is very cohesive. And everybody's got a Facebook event banner in case they make their own event. And, you know, I send them the flyer that I take to all of the events that I do so they can print it out and post it or, you know, take a stack with them for people to take. So that helps get the word out too. And I have an in with the local radio station around here, which is very helpful.
Nice.
Well, I think that's the most powerful way to promote. I mean, if you can get other people talking about what it is that you do, that's gold.
Well, that's why it's like on Instagram and Facebook, one of the most valuable things somebody can do for you is to share your post or like bookmark it or put it in their story because, yeah, you know, it's good to talk about yourself and say, hey, this is my product, this is why it's great. But if it's coming from somebody else who took the time to share it, it's like, whoa, more people think this is fantastic than just them. So I know people say like, oh yeah, okay, well, whatever, that's a free way to share it. But there's some pretty stinking good free ways.
And I love that you have a cohesive set of, I'm assuming, colors and images that you hand to everybody that wants to make graphics for it. That's so valuable. I can't tell you the number of times I've seen an event on Facebook and then I go to Instagram and it's the same event, but it looks like 2 totally different events because people aren't talking about it the same way. They're not using the same words to announce the event. So it's really cool that you provide that to your vendors, knowing that giving them something easier to share.
Yes.
They don't do any work. One of the things that I have a problem with, and like I fully admit this, is that other shows that I do, I totally forget to put them on Facebook as an event for like my own page. And so if somebody were to give me these things and I could just like plug in the information real quick and hit go, I would probably add them. But other than my show, I've never done a show where anybody has given me any materials to do or like to use. And so I have to go on their page and I have to copy and paste all these things. And it might take like 2 or 3 minutes, but that's 2 or 3 minutes that I think I have to do something else or I'm at work and I need to pretend to be doing actual work. So, you know, I don't think to go back and do that later. And then all of a sudden the show is 2 days from now and I'm like, there's no point. You know, and usually their graphics are not that great looking anyway. So if I do it, I'll make my own to make it look a little more exciting. But then, like you said, it doesn't really match I try to keep it similar, but it doesn't match what they do. So people might see the same event and think it's two totally different things.
Well, it's crazy now with like tools like Canva, if you've ever seen that tool. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's so simple to make a high quality graphic. No, it's not gonna be perfect your first try, but man, it's so easy to make cohesive graphics now. And I think it's a way that you can set yourself apart, and potentially, I mean, I don't know about you, but like, would you waive a booth fee if you knew a particular vendor was going to bring 1,000 people to the show if they had a big audience?
Yes.
Yeah, so like those of us that are trying to do shows and stuff like that, you can really have a competitive advantage if you're the one bringing people to the show from your socials.
Yeah.
So
If you are the person that's bringing that many people, make sure to be friends with the host, because that's going to get you so far. Like, I don't pick favorites or whatever by any means. Like, I place people based on the different things that they do, right? You know, one guy told me that he was guaranteed he was going to spend $500 in like marketing, like Facebook and Instagram ads and all. And I was like, dude, are you like for serious? Because if you are, I can get you by the door.
Wow.
Like, if that's your only request because you sell candles and they're super heavy, I will put you by a door. You know, no questions asked. I'll figure things out around you, because if you're doing that much for the show to help me out, I can help you out with placement a little bit, you know?
that's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just feel like you have so much expertise in the craft show sector, and you've had so much experience not only as like a seller, but somebody who's setting up the show. So you have knowledge on both sides, and I think that's really cool because not everybody has that experience. But I also don't want to brush past like just how much work that is. Like, that is so much work to not only run your business on like the front end, but the back end by running the show too. So like, it is so much work. So who I guess encourages you or helps like keep you going, and I guess encourages you to like keep running your business?
My mom, as much as she hates going to shows with me, she puts this one on her calendar every year, and she will be there. My dad is there. Dan, my fiance, he goes begrudgingly. So usually he ends up having to work, and then he goes home, changes, and comes over for the last like hour or two of it. And I feel a little bad because, you know, he's probably tired, but whatever. So at least this time he's got 2 whole days. He can find a little bit of time to come hang out in between his work, because he does have to work both days.
Yeah.
And then his parents, his mom thinks I'm like super famous, I guess. Like, that's how she acts when she walks around the show. She's like, oh, are you enjoying yourself? My future daughter-in-law is the one that runs the whole thing. And like, I love that you love this so much.
Oh my gosh.
That is so sweet.
That's
oh
great.
my gosh.
That's so cool that you
The
have so much.
vendors are super helpful too.
Yeah.
You know, they're like just super excited every year to sign up immediately. You know, they're asking me in like February, when's the application coming out? I'm like,
Wow.
okay, hold on. I need to take like a very long break from this. You'll get it in like, or April, I think is when I sent them out this year for the returning people. But even like the vendors that want to come back are super encouraging, because I guess they do really well. I put on like blinders, and I'm just like, fix any problems that happen immediately. So I don't know. My dad tells me how many people he thinks shows up. And, you know, my mom's like, oh, I'm busy nonstop. And I'm just like, I don't know what happened the whole day. I have no memory of it, but everyone keeps telling me how great it is. And they keep asking me when they can sign up for next year. So something good must have happened, right?
That's awesome.
Clearly.
That's awesome.
That's great that you have so much support.
Yeah.
Would you agree with the statement that running a business is lonely?
It has its moments. Very much enjoy being alone. So I am not as lonely as some other people might be, because I like it. But I definitely have times where I'm like, Dan, you want to just come sit out in the garage with me?
Oh.
Like, we can watch a movie on the TV over there while I do things. He doesn't, because usually it's like really hot or really cold out here. But I'm very good at that balance between doing things. And then when I hit that, like, there's like a mental wall that all of a sudden I just hit, and I'm like, I think I'm bored, or I think I'm irritated. I'm going to leave now. And I just turn the thing off and walk away.
That is
I have
such a good
time.
skill.
Yeah, it's
Sometimes I wish I could just push through it. Like Christmas time, when it gets that busy, you know, I'm like, I really need to do these things, but I am just not in the mood for it, you know, and sometimes it takes me 2 or 3 days to get back in the mood. So that's not so great. But the
Yeah.
rest of the year, it's a pretty even balance.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the benefits of having your own business and selling what you make is, if you're not feeling it, you can just tap out, and that's okay. It's okay to do that. You need to do that. But if you're doing that, 4 or 5 times a week, maybe we got to reevaluate how much fun you're having. But I think that that's an important balance that I think each of us should learn. I really appreciate listening to you talk about it. I know for me, I've got some stuff to do. I know I'm going to start to reevaluate, just check in with myself throughout the day to see how I'm doing.
Yeah.
Instead of just going on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing until I'm burned out. So,
right. Instead of saying, oh, I think I might be tired. Maybe we should take a break. I feel like sometimes it's, I'm tired. That's rough. Let's keep going, and just knowing when to take breaks and when to push through.
So this next question is hopefully for the people watching that are thinking about getting into a business, curious about it. Maybe they've watched a few videos about it and they're just not sure if they should jump in. I guess the question I'm asking you now, Alex, is do you think it's all been worth it? From the time that you did your first show to where you are now and where you want to go, would you say that the whole experience has been worth it?
I think so.
Tell me more.
Like, there were definitely moments where I was like, I really just don't want to do this anymore. But I really like making things. And those moments where, like, usually it happens in the spring or like early, like beginning of the year, after the Christmas rush is over and you're just like, oh my God, that was awful. Great, but awful. And you start to realize how nice it is to not have like super tight deadlines like you did right before Christmas and worrying about shipping and things getting places by Christmas and all. Like that January, February time, almost every year, I'm like, is it really worth it to keep going? And so I sit around for a little while and I'm like, I need to make something. Like this is what I do. This is who I am. I make stuff. And so I need to like glue things together or cut stuff up or paint things with spray paint, not regular paint. And like, so I think about it every year pretty much, like, is it worth it? And then by the time spring starts to happen again, because my garage is not heated or like air conditioned, so that plays a big factor in if I want to even be out here. But by the time it starts to get nice out, I'm like, oh, okay, I don't mind being out here again. Like, let's go clean up the garage and start over this year. So yes, it's worth it. It has its moments where I'm iffy, but overall, I mean, what am I going to do with all these things? If I made 100 ornaments because I like making ornaments, I do not need 100 ornaments. I need 100 trees at this point. Hold them all. So
yes.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I didn't think of it that way. Like when you run a business, like you get to make more. I know that sounds kind of obvious and silly, like, well, duh, but like, no, you get to make more when you're making it for somebody else. You
can disperse it. Like you can make more. You can make 80 ornaments because you can get rid of 80 ornaments and then have the money to buy more materials so you can just sit here and make more ornaments.
And you can know there are more people enjoying what they have because I was able to make it. And I don't know, for me, that does it for me.
Yeah.
That's the sauce for me, is when I know that somebody is going to sleep really enjoying the new table that they have or the new cutting board that they got in the mail. Like that's it for me. Just knowing I made somebody happy with what I could do with my two hands.
It's a nice feeling leaving a show knowing that like so many people just had giant smiles on their faces. Or one lady last year, I had a pet memorial ornament, which is like a really sad thing. Mm-hmm. And I hate talking to people about it usually because they're so sad and I'm trying to make them feel better, but like there's only so much I can say. And this one lady walked up and she goes, oh my God, my dog just died 2 weeks ago. And she's like telling me how upsetting this is. And I was like, I don't know how to help you. And then she tells me, I'm going to take this ornament right off the tree. That was my dog's name because I happened to pick a very popular dog name on purpose. But she was like, this is the most amazing thing. It was like it was meant to be. And all of a sudden she went from like on the verge of full on crying to just like the happiest person. And she had her husband come over and he was like, oh, this is amazing. It's like, wow, I just like fixed your day. How cool. Yeah.
Oh man.
So it's so nice.
Yeah, if that doesn't do it for you, pack it up.
I know.
You don't deserve a business. Oh. That's the cool kind of stuff we get to do.
I would almost be in tears.
I know. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that stuff is so exciting.
Yeah. And
about
it's
running a
so much
business.
work, but that sort of payoff, like, oh my gosh, makes it so worth it.
There's other parts that are like hard and they don't get easier, like all the behind the scenes stuff, like the accounting and taxes. And I try really hard every year to figure out inventory. I'm sure that it's wrong, but I'm putting in all the effort that I can, but all that kind of stuff, that also is rough, and does not help the worth it aspect, but you get through it. You can't do the fun stuff without some of the annoying things.
Yeah, I think that's something that like is not talked about enough, I think, in this space. We've tried to like talk about it loudly over the years, but a lot of people just want to chase the money or show the thumbnail of them making $1 million or whatever, but it really is tough. Michelangelo, the famous artist sculptor, that Michelangelo.
Yes.
He said, if you knew how much work went into my art, you wouldn't think it was that impressive. And I that sort of hit me hard the other day when I heard that, and I was just thinking like, man, like that's so true. Like we point to our accomplishments in business or the things that we make, and we see this all the time. Like when you finish a project, you're like, oh, that could be better. That could be better. I could spend more time on that. And it's like, hey, dude, it's okay. It's beautiful. And our friends and family are trying to tell us that what we make is good enough, but all we see are the imperfections and the work that we put into it.
Right.
But I think there's something to be said of like, we need to address the fact that yeah, it is hard, but you know what? It is worth it. All right, so there's somebody out there watching this video right now that's thinking about starting a business. Alex, on the spot, what would you say to encourage them to take the leap, to sign up for a craft show, to ask their friends and family, make a Facebook post about the fact that they're trying to sell what they make now? What would you say to encourage that person that's on the fence?
Just do it. Like, I put it off for so long. Once I actually made a Facebook page, I was like, oh God, I don't want people to know me, to know about this. How embarrassing. But like, why was that embarrassing? I don't know. It's not like I was pushing product on them or anything like that. It shouldn't have been a big deal. So I would say just do it. Get that first post over with where you share like your business page on your personal page. And if people like it, they like it. And if they don't, then whatever. They might find it again later and decide later that they like it. Sign up for a craft show. My first one, I had like really terrible dollar store tablecloths and a couple little like crates to kind of lift things because I read somewhere on a Facebook group that you should, raise stuff up to eye level. And it didn't look good by any means, but I still sold my $100 worth of stuff, which I thought was really exciting. So
yeah, it is.
Do what you can with the little bit of money that you have to put into it, assuming you only have a little bit of money. And just see how it goes. Like, see if you like interacting with people. That's a big thing with craft shows is you can tell when people are there because they're just trying to make money, but they don't want to deal with you until you're ready to hand them cash, and see if you're one of those people, which is fine if you are, but maybe a website is more for you. Or if you like in-person stuff and you like just talking to people and hearing those stories like the dog lady and all, and I feel like you're not going to necessarily know that until you're in that setting with a bunch of strangers talking to you. Some people are just better at it than others are, but you don't know till you try.
100%.
Yes.
You don't know until you try.
Yep. And just stop overthinking it sometimes. I know it sounds like such an easy answer, like, oh, just do it. But it truly is because we build it up to be such a big thing and we overthink all the time. And so sometimes you just got to take the leap.
Yeah. Man, I know this has been such an enlightening conversation just for us, but I know it's been for those watching too. Alex, where can people follow you to get more information about what it is that you do?
All of my things, handles, whatever they're called, clearly I'm not good at this social media part, it's Hello Yellow Customs, all one word. My website that is not so great right now is helloyellowcustoms.com. My email, if anybody wants to email me, is helloyellowcustoms.com or at gmail.com if you've got questions. I will attempt to answer them. I can't guarantee it's going to be a great answer, but I will definitely try.
You are so great. Thank you so much. I just everybody just has to know, she is such a light and such a huge help to like everybody in the stud stack. Like the advice you heard here, like she is just always so willing to share like that, which is so great. And I know that's a lot of the reason that her like business has taken off and she's succeeded so much in craft shows, just for her like love of, I don't know, she's just good at the people part. Like she's just good with people and she loves sharing. So thank you so, so much. We appreciate you being here, Alex. And we are so beyond excited for you. Like we just love hearing the next thing. Like, you know, the craft show's coming up next year and I'm gonna tweak this and I got even more vendors, and it just makes our whole day. So thank you for sharing a little piece of yourself with everybody today. I know everybody had to have learned so much, and if you didn't, like literally rewind and watch it over again, because I know for a fact that there is like really good stuff that you can take from this video.
I'm gonna go back and watch it. I don't know what you like. Man, I know I missed a lot of really good nuggets in there. So anyway, just drop a comment down below. Tell Alex a big, big thank you for doing this.
Yes.
I just contacted her out of the blue and said like, hey, you're doing this. And she said that was a great idea. So anyway, thanks so much for watching, and we will see you on the next one.